I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time. Welcome to Women Awakening. I'm Cynthia James. I'm your host, and I love that I get to introduce you to fabulous women. I get to introduce you to women who have said yes to their lives, have stepped out and stepped up, have become inspired, and are now inspiring. And so we do these every week, and we're on a lot of platforms: Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon, YouTube. Subscribe, come back every week and meet an amazing woman. You know, I have been through a lot in my life. Most of you know that, and so getting to a place where I could honor my life path and honor the fact that my wounds didn't define me has been an extraordinary journey. My guest today has done that and more. She has spent a lifetime helping people claim their true voice, right? She invites people into the recognition of all the facets of who they are. She's eclectic, right? She's trained in traditional and depth psychology, as well as alternative indigenous practices. She is a conscious energy teacher, a shamanic healer, a ceremonial leader, and a master success coach. Listen to this. She was recognized as Colorado's spiritual health guru by 5280 magazine for her innovative empowerment techniques, which inspire us to recognize our own wisdom story. She's an award-winning author. She's published and authored 6 books, including Turtle Wisdom, the series, right? 8 Keys to Wholeness, Ophelia's Oracle. And she also has meditations, right? And she's got these online classes called A Rite of Passage and 8 Essential Keys, Tools for Hope-Filled Healing and Expansive Evolutionary Growth. Donna DeNomme, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Cynthia. It's so good to be here.
I'm really happy to have this conversation. We have known each other a long time, and I have been witness to your growth, your expansion, your courage, and you're just being willing to step forward. And I would like to know just a little bit, people often think that people who have success in their lives just kind of dropped into it, and that's not the case. How did you grow up?
Well, I was born the first in my generation in my very close-knit French Catholic family. So I was the first child, the first grandchild, the first niece or nephew. And so, I imagined that I was this beloved child. I'm sure I was for at least 4 years. There were no others, right? And I came into this very close-knit Catholic family. My grandparents owned a neighborhood, very popular neighborhood luncheonette. And so it was the place where everybody went, they hung out. It was a business. And so very early on, I learned such a strong work ethic. And also my grandfather called my grandmother boss. And so I got to see this strong female presence because she was the brains behind the operation, right? She kept everything running. So I think I was really in a very good spot initially. We lived across the street from the Catholic church and school, and I attended there from first grade through 6th. And as you know, that's where the abuse occurred, is within the church. And it was sexual abuse within a ritual setting. And so it really did have its own, I think, somewhat bizarre setting to it and trappings, because it was in this ritual setting. And it's interesting to me that I've come into being an adult and was drawn to create rituals. People hire me to create ceremonies, rites of passage, and become a spiritual counselor. It's really that that balance of the wounding and the healing, which I see so much in the clients and the students that I work with. Whatever that wound is, regardless of how deep and horrific it might be, there are gifts there. We know that there are gifts there. And if we can discover those together, they often become strengths.
Yes. And I have often said to people, I would not want anyone to go through what I went through as a child, but I'm very clear that what happened to me was a catalyst for what I do today. And I think a lot of healers have gone through different experiences in life that opened the place for them to become way showers. And I also want to just address for the moment, that so many people have felt so wounded by their religions, whether it was physical or sexual abuse or not, they have felt so wounded. And so you are a deeply spiritual person. What was it in you that kept trying to find your spiritual nature in spite of all of that?
Yes, well, and here's the place where I feel the emotion, the deep emotion come up. And, I did go back to school and received an advanced degree in depth psychology, and was really at that time that I understood how rare it is. And yet I was the small percentage of people who, going through an abuse trauma, actually have mystical experiences. There's a small percentage. It's only about 5 to 7% of people who experience that. I mean, we know about leaving the body. That's very common, that we leave the body. And yet I went to faraway places when I left my body. And now in Colorado, I actually live very close to some of the places that I went to. I found those places, and they're here in our beloved mountains and our foothills. So, I connected with my guides, my spiritual guides, and they instructed me, not so much in an organized school where I was sitting and taking a class, but more in a very organic, just gifting me with insight and information, some of which I understood even at a very young age, and other things that I even now in the present time, I'll remember something and get a nuance or a deepening of that understanding. As we all heal, there's layers and layers and layers. And I think there's layers of releasing pain, but there's also layers of insight, right? And so, again, I give great thanks that during that time, even though it was abuse in a religious setting, it wounded me very much around religion, and I had to heal from that. But in terms of spirituality, it actually brought me in farther to my own spirituality. And so as a 6-year-old, as a 7-year-old, I was having long conversations with my guides. I almost died when I had measles and had an out-of-body experience where I was flying around and consciously, aware of it while I was doing it. And so I was kind of in training, even as a young one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's so interesting. Not only my experience, but I've interviewed so many women that have had the same as children. There was something we knew. There was something that we were connected to. There was something guiding us beyond the circumstances of our life. And I love that you say in training, because we were being guided and supported through this process to become who we've come here to be, right? So I guess I really want to talk about the fact that, like I said, I've known you for a long time. And the woman that is sitting before me today is very centered in her being, and she's very strong within herself. And you didn't always carry yourself that way. How did you move from the inner to the outer power that you become?
Well, that's such a big question. I've got about 10 places that I'd love to go. Again, I think it happens in layers. I've been doing the work that I do now. I've been doing that work since 1987. So I've been working with clients and students all that time. And yet you're right. There is a deepening, I think, of being comfortable in my own skin, of being able to speak about these things. More and more, we're listening to each other. We're speaking about our own wounding. We're witnessing in circles and individual connection. We're witnessing each other. And that is just so beautiful. In the beginning, years ago, decades ago, when I mentioned what had happened to me, I would have to take care of the people I was talking to. An old boyfriend hyperventilated so badly, I thought I'd have to take him to the hospital. He had been an altar boy. And because he couldn't do anything to make that not true for me, so when you ask that question, I feel like what has changed is I've stopped feeling responsible for how other people will interpret this information. And actually, Cynthia, I have to thank you, because you had a little piece you had a big piece in this, really, both pushing me to actually let go of the piece that I had written, 8 Keys to Wholeness, which divulges a little bit of my story with a lot of how I work with people, the healing process, right? And the way I started that book, 8 Keys to Wholeness, I always have a copy nearby. The way I started this book is by telling that life brings us to this place where sometimes we go beyond our resistance. And the part of my life that I'd always said, no, I would never write about that or really talk publicly about that, I found myself in graduate school writing with abandon that went totally past all my resistance. And then in a New Year's meditation, I saw from my high heart that space, that sacred space between the heart and the throat. I saw 2 white birds stretch and push up through my throat, out my mouth, and fly free. And I heard a voice say, "Your wound has become your strength. Your wound has become your strength." And just in case the listeners haven't figured it out, you were leading that meditation and the facilitator for the container that allowed me to have that beautiful experience.
Well,
Very
that,
grateful.
there's so much richness to what you said. And the first thing I want to comment on is, lady, you are not responsible for how other people experience your life, your story, your wisdom. The stronger you can become within yourself, the clearer you can become within yourself, and the more authentic you can become. That's the power that becomes your strength. That I just love what you just said. And the other thing is that when you continue to journey, when you continue to take the deeper dive within yourself, then the universe begins to open up. And by the way, just like Donna, your story has merit. your story is important. Your story is essential. So, what made you start writing books, Donna? I mean, what made you say, okay, now I'm going to be an author?
Yeah, I was kind of tricked into that, which is interesting to me because as a child, I wanted to be a writer. I clearly remember that. I wanted to be a writer. I would think about what it would be like to be a writer. I always found solace in my writing, although I didn't get an extraordinary amount of support through schooling with that. And, I think there's a message in that story too for anyone who's listening, because I think we write for ourselves first, and then we decide what we want to do with that. And that's actually my last book, which is As You Feel, So You Heal, a rite, WRITE, of passage.
Yes, yes.
For me, I became sick. I had a thyroid crash, and it was right after I had led a very large women's conference that had 100 women in it. And I thought I was just tired because I had done that on top of everything else I normally did. But I had a thyroid crash, and walking across the room would wear me out at that point. But I found that I could do two things, and it's interesting to me why that would be. But I could garden, which can be hard work, right? I could garden and I could write. And so I just began writing, and I actually wrote my first book as a touchstone for my coaching clients in between their sessions. And I put it out there and was really surprised because we ran out of the first printing, which was 1,000 books in 5 months. And I didn't know it then, but that's very rare. Like 96% of all books published never sell 1,000 books. And so we did another run of 3,000, and those went in a year. And that just started me.
The thing interesting, I love what you said, that you wrote for yourself. When I was writing my first book, I mean, I went through a whole bunch of inner judgments and stuff, but I realized when I finished the book, I actually was writing it for me, even though I was going to share it with other people. And so I guess I want to say to anybody out there who wants to write, do it, and then allow the universe to take it where it will, because if there's something that wants to come out of you, why not say yes to it? And then look at Donna today, all of these books and award-winning things and meditations and all of this stuff simply because she said yes the first time. So I guess I would love to talk about, you work with a lot of people, and what, what's the major thing you want to teach people when they come to you, whether it's as a client or in a workshop? What's the major thing you want them to know?
Mm-hmm. Well, and we've been talking about it, which is I want women to recognize, to acknowledge, and to refine their wisdom story, to realize that everything that happens to them and everything they do is a part of that wisdom story. So the good, the bad, the ugly, and even the horrific is a part of that story. And what you do with it is a part of that story. And then the exciting part is when you're consciously writing those chapters. So just like my first book that just sort of happened is different than my last book that I sat down with an idea and I developed it. You can do that same thing in your life. You can work with what just happened. and work with that content and help evolve it, because of course that's why we're all here, is to evolve as souls, so you can evolve whatever has happened in your life. You can't rewrite the past, but you can glean the useful and the wisdom out of that past and actually utilize it as a foundation to build the future. And I hope this won't offend anybody, but basically, old shit makes really good manure. That's in turtle wisdom. People love it. There's even an affirmation: caca be gone, caca transform.
Love it. I really love it. And so, you have created quite a beautiful life for yourself. A lot of women who are successful tell me that they have a really hard time being in partnership and in relationship. How has your success worked in relationship for you?
Well, that's the interesting part, for sure. I think I have had wonderful relationships, and yet, I'm always in such awe and appreciation of you and Carl because of the longevity and the beautiful love that is so evident whenever you're together. It's still almost like when people get together and they have that starry-eyed piece. I don't feel like I necessarily have that, but where I've evolved to in my life is I have companionship, I have partnership, I share and plan and live a very full life in a love relationship.
Beautiful.
It's different, and I think we have to look at what all the different kinds of love and not kind of put a label on it. I can appreciate Cynthia and Carl's love, and I can have a different one and be okay about that, right? Because part of what I appreciate about my relationship is we are both extremely active and creating what I think is our mission work. And our relationship allows a lot of time for that because there's space, to do that. And I appreciate that.
Well, I love that. And I love that what you said, there's no cookie cutter thing for relationship. It's like, what relationship works for you? What relationship feeds your soul? What relationship brings you harmony and peace in your life so that you can fulfill your mission? I absolutely love that. And it's quite beautiful for me to witness you opening to that level of loving in your life. I want you to tell us how we get in touch with you. How do we find you? How do we find all your books and everything that you do?
My website is yourwisdomstory.com.
Your wisdom.
So that's an easy way. And there's lots of information up there.
Absolutely. Well, ladies, please go visit this website. Please go find out more about Donna and what she does and the gifts that she brings. Donna, I ask the same last question of every guest. This show is called Women Awakening. In your opinion, what is the one thing, the most important thing women should know about the importance of their awakening?
Life is so precious. It's fascinating to me that my Catholic nuns and my indigenous healers and teachers said the exact same thing, which is that there are souls lining up, just pushing and wanting to get here on this, into this earth plane. And I think it's because we do evolve so quickly and so richly. We know now more than ever that life is precious. And so to embrace life as the adventure and the opportunity that it is to evolve. And if there are pieces in your life that aren't working for you, to consciously shift those. And if you need help, there are many of us who are skillful at helping you, but not to settle. I think that's what I was discerning in my sharing about relationships. Although I can appreciate and admire one kind of relationship, mine does not have to be less than just because it's different. And so I feel this is true for everyone, is to come to a place of peace and connect and contentment, that you know that the life you're living is truly your own. And when you get to the end of your life and you look back, you can say, I did what I wanted to do. I did what I needed to do. I look for those deep heart desires and soul's longings. Have they been realized? How can they be realized?
Oh, that is so beautiful. Donna, I'm so grateful that you're here. I'm so grateful we got to have this conversation. I'm extraordinarily happy that I get to introduce you to my tribe and love the work you're doing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Blessings.
So ladies, like I said, we do this every week. Donna is just a beautiful example of what women are doing on this planet. This is our time. This is our time for emergence, expansion, growth, and to bring our wisdom here. And so please remember that you are an original imprint. Please remember that you have gifts that only you can share. And please remember that you are necessary. Please come back every week and meet another woman and know that I'm extraordinarily happy to be with you.